What's up, everybody? Welcome to the podcast. Now, I'm Alex. In this video, I want to talk about the newest Last of Us Part 2 news. I kind of want to talk about what's going on with this game, what could be the plan going forward. Now, we've talked about this game quite a bit over the last couple of weeks. A few weeks ago, kind of when this whole thing around the world was getting going, we talked about if this game could be, a candidate for being delayed. Turns out we were sadly right. We didn't want to be right, but we did talk about that. And then just a few days ago, I made a video talking about, that it did get delayed. What does this mean? Could it take Ghost of Tsushima's spot? What happens with Ghost of Tsushima? So we had that whole discussion as well. Those were the last two videos, and they'll be linked at the end of this video. But now we've gotten even more kind of spicier stuff that it really just makes it more confusing, makes it, I feel like, seem more dire and more like, like bad things are happening than it really should. But basically, we've gotten two things over the last, I'd say, day and a half. Is one, Iron Man VR, don't forget about Iron Man VR. Iron Man VR and The Last of Us Part 2 have been removed from the PlayStation Store, so you cannot even pre-order these games anymore. Now, from someone like me, I'll be honest, I had not pre-ordered it yet because I was debating still whether I was going to get it digitally or whether I was going to get it physically. I guess the game and Naughty Dog and Sony made the decision for me. They don't want me to pre-order it at all. But no, I mean, in all reality, removing the game from the PlayStation Store is a tricky move. I don't necessarily understand. Now, they said, I think the running reason, I should say, of why this has happened is to prevent like a flood, like another like avalanche of pre-orders of this game. I don't really get what that does or like how that affects anything. This is not the first time games have been removed from the PlayStation Store, from like the Xbox Store after a delay. This has happened before. I can distinctly recall games doing it, but again, it kind of just paints a more dire situation where it's like, again, what's the reasoning? You're doing it so that more people can't pre-order it, but if you just move the date, what does the pre-order have to do with that? If I'm pre-ordering it and I wanted it May 29th, and I get it. I mean, every game's different. Maybe some games you just fall out of love with, or you realize something. You're like, you know what? No, I don't want to pre-order anymore. But I mean, all right, come on. If you pre-order The Last of Us, you were gonna get it. If you pre-ordered it a few months ago and you were expecting it, when it was originally supposed to come out, then it got delayed. If you were wanting it May 29th, you're telling me you're not gonna want it June 26th if it gets pushed to Ghost of Tsushima's day. So it's just weird. Overall, that's a really weird choice. I really don't see why they did that. The second thing is even more dire, is they refunded all pre-orders of this game. So if you've pre-ordered this digitally on PlayStation, you've gotten, or I think you're supposed to have at least, gotten a refund for your purchase. So, and again, that's kind of the same-ish thing. Like, you pre-ordered it, but then they removed it from the store, so technically it's not there. It's not, it literally isn't there anymore. So they're going to give you your money back. Again, just kind of a really strange thing. And it's like, again, even for that one, so what? People are going to, so when you announce its release date and say it's in August or whenever it's going to be, the people that pre-ordered are going to have to pre-order it again. With the money, you refunded it, but you're going to have to use that same money to pre-order it again. But here's what it does. Again, it kind of paints like a really bad picture, I think, overall. I don't think it's a good look at all for The Last of Us Part 2, not even close. But another thing is, again, in that last video we made, I tried to be as optimistic as humanly possible, and I went on record and I said, here's my two predictions. The first one, and for any of those that haven't watched that, and sorry if you have watched it, it's a quick recap. My first prediction is Last of Us Part 2 would take Ghost of Tsushima's spot at the end of June 26th, and then Ghost of Tsushima would move to around August somewhere. I've seen a lot of people say maybe even late July. Sure, late summer, let's just call it, right? That's the prediction number one. Prediction number two is it's a little bit more drastic than we think. It's a little bit worse, and and both of these games get delayed. Ghost of Tsushima would get delayed. Last of Us Part 2 would probably come out around that August period, the same time that I assumed Ghost of Tsushima would come out if The Last of Us took its spot, and then Ghost of Tsushima would probably come out around October, right before next-gen consoles. That was prediction number two. To be quite honest with you, based off of what they've done. Now, again, have games done this before? Yes, but it's not very common. In fact, it's pretty darn rare. It has happened, but it's pretty rare that games do this. With all of this being said, it doesn't paint a good picture for The Last of Us releasing just a month later. Again, I want to remain optimistic, and I want to believe, by the way, that late June, why wouldn't you? And also, the age-old talk, what we talked about with Last of Us Part 2 is, I just don't see. I get it. I understand the delay. We've talked about it, but at the same time, there is a part of me that doesn't understand it, and the conflicting messaging from Sony and Naughty Dog. In that, I mean, yeah, you want the whole world to play it, but how many people are going to buy it physically? And especially where we are right now, look at Doom, look at Animal Crossing, look at Final Fantasy, look at all these games. They're doing amazing. They're selling amazing. Now they're selling amazing digitally, obviously not physically, or actually a lot of them are selling really good physically. It's just there aren't a lot of copies. Same thing with systems. The Nintendo Switch is beating, I believe it's like on track with the Wii. In the peak of the Wii period, when people were buying the Wii at like the highest peak, that's what the Nintendo Switch is doing right now. And obviously you have to do that physically, or it has to be delivered to you, stuff like that. So again, there are excuses, but at the same time, there seems to be all these games and systems and stuff providing like not that there aren't excuses, right? So it's again very, very weird. Now, I wanted to remain optimistic in that video, but based off of what we've seen now, I don't think that The Last of Us would just be pushed 1 month. I don't see why you would do something so drastic as to remove it from the store. People that haven't pre-ordered it yet can't even pre-order it. People that did pre-order it got their money back, so we're actually all in the same boat. If you pre-ordered a couple months ago, you're the same as me because neither of us have this game pre-ordered right now, right? And neither of us actually can pre-order it as it is because it's not there. So again, with that being said, I don't know why it would be pushed only 1 month if you do something this drastic. So now what happens, right? Now what's the prediction? Well, it could still be my second prediction. I would like to remain tough on that because, I mean, the other thing, here's like the dire one, is if what I was saying doesn't come true. If Last of Us doesn't come out in like August and Ghost of Tsushima comes out in October, then they have to get pushed even further. So now take my Ghost of Tsushima October one and put The Last of Us there, and then put Ghost of Tsushima afterwards, like, I don't even know, February? Again, those seem very, very drastic. I know some people were saying in the comments too of like, why can't Ghost of Tsushima come first? I guess it's possible, and here's what I'll say to that, is Ghost of Tsushima seems to be the one that is farther away from completion. Not that much, because it was only supposed to come out 1 month after The Last of Us. And again, it depends on how you want to read in to Naughty Dog and Sony. Maybe it really is some sort of cover, and I have seen people say that, and you know what? I'm not entirely against the idea that maybe it's just Naughty Dog needs more time. Now, I'm not saying they're using this as an excuse. I'm sure it is a huge problem, what's going on, and the distribution of copies and all that kind of stuff. I understand that, and I do understand that probably is the main thing, but that doesn't mean to say that Naughty Dog can't still work on the game. Also, there's the multiplayer you have to think of. The longer The Last of Us gets delayed, now you start to ask yourself two different things. Honestly, two different things. One, could it be used to bundle itself into the PS5? Could they delay it so much that suddenly it's a PS5 system seller? Now, again, it wouldn't be exclusive to the PS5, but it would be on PS4 and PS5. So does the delay allow Naughty Dog time to polish a PS5 version, and now you have those two versions? Now you can push it with a PlayStation 5, and maybe you release it like day one. The day the PS5 comes out, that's when The Last of Us Part 2 comes out. Does that happen now? Honestly, it's actually very, very possible. The longer this game gets delayed, the longer this game basically just doesn't get talked about of when it's coming out, the higher that likelihood is. The second thing, again, is the multiplayer. What happens with that? Again, same exact thing. The longer you go, the longer it gives literally the team inside Naughty Dog that's specifically only working on factions. Because remember, they said it's basically going to be like its own game, like a GTA Online, right? Like it's going to be its own thing. I think it's going to be free, although nobody's technically said that. I think it probably should be free, although myself personally, I would pay money for it, but who knows? So maybe now it gets delayed so much that the multiplayer is right, because a lot of people's theory was the multiplayer would probably be ready to go for the PS5, so they could redo it, right? It comes out in May, in November with the PS5, they come out with the PS5 version. It also has the multiplayer. You patch the multiplayer into The Last of Us Part 2 on PS4, and then there you go. Now you have like a brand new experience, which you can play on the PS5, and you also have the multiplayer. So again, if that's true, well, then you could actually have all of these things. If it's delayed long enough, it could go into the PS5. It could literally have a PS5 version, and it could have multiplayer included. I mean, like as its separate game, but maybe still in the base. I don't know necessarily how they would do it, but honestly, all those things are on the table right now because I would have told you. And in fact, let's go back further. Like a month or two, I would have said, no, this game isn't getting delayed. Then, obviously like a week ago when the game was delayed, I said, maybe it could just be pushed like a month. Now, I do agree, like them saying that it's indefinite, like them not even giving clarification. Now, again, I do feel like because they said that, part of the reason is because they're deciding on Ghost of Tsushima. I don't think they're going to give us The Last of Us Part 2's release date as long as Ghost of Tsushima is still there June 26th. Once that is removed, once they say Ghost of Tsushima is delayed indefinitely, then I feel like you can start to talk about The Last of Us, because now Ghost of Tsushima is basically wiped from the board, right? Because Last of Us comes first. So you can't say, well, Last of Us Part 2 we're going to put in August, but Ghost of Tsushima is still there. And then a couple weeks later you say, oh, well, Ghost of Tsushima's moved too. Now it's coming out in October. Like, the order of that isn't right. And maybe that's a smaller thing to some people, and I would, I wouldn't argue with that. But in terms of like how Sony does it, how the gaming industry does it, that's not how they do it, right? Clearly, The Last of Us is, and by the way, The Last of Us Part 2 was meant to come out in the fall, this past fall. So The Last of Us Part 2 was meant to come out almost like a whole year, let's say like half a year to just be safe. At least half a year before Ghost of Tsushima. It's just with, Naughty Dog having to work on it that it kept getting pushed. But really, Sony wanted probably a half year difference between these games releasing. So again, you're not going to have them announce The Last of Us Part 2's date before they push Ghost of Tsushima, because also, again, the possibility is still there that The Last of Us just takes Ghost of Tsushima's spot. Very interesting. Again, it's very confusing and kind of like drastic just for the sake of being drastic. People were already upset and confused and kind of questioning things. Even when Sony issued their statement, Naughty Dog issued their statement, there was a lot of people calling both sides out, or either side out. And now, again, with it being removed, with the pre-orders being refunded, it just seems like, again, they're going like super, super drastic to do it. Like, for some reason, we haven't really seen that. And yeah, I think it paints, honestly, it doesn't paint a good picture for The Last of Us Part 2. Now, I don't want to get people confused. Just to end this video, I'm going to end it right here. I love the first game. Absolutely adore The Last of Us. Naughty Dog is my favorite gaming developer company, okay? I'm going to get The Last of Us Part 2 day one. I'm going to support it. I'm sure it's going to be a truly spectacular game. How much spectacular? I mean, that'll be decided. But I don't want to sound like I'm beating down this game, because, I'm calling things for what they are. But at the same time, I'm getting this game day one. Maybe I'll even get like the collector's edition. I'm very excited for it. I'm going to be playing it a ton. I'm pumped. I just want to make that clear at the end here, when probably very few people make it this far. But you know what? Thank you guys so much for watching. I greatly, greatly appreciate it. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know if this seems like a drastic move to you guys in the comments. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Podcast Now. Hit the bell icon so you guys know when these videos go up. Thank you again for watching, guys, and I'll see you on the next video.